back with your next class. In today's class, we are going to discuss a very important chapter, that is biodiversity and its conservation. So, all of you know what is biodiversity, isn't it? The variety of organisms that you can see all around us, be it in terms of plants or in terms of animals or in terms of microbes, the variety of organisms that you see all around you, that would constitute the biodiversity. Now, because you have learned about ecosystem in details, you very well know that biodiversity is so very important for the maintenance, survival, and for mainly to keep the ecosystem in equilibrium, isn't it? Balanced ecosystem requires biodiversity. If one or two organisms would be there in a region, do you think a food chain or a food wave would have been possible? Would that environment be stable enough? No, right? So in that case, proper maintenance of an ecosystem definitely requires a lot of biodiversity. So in this chapter, we are mainly going to discuss all about biodiversity. What are the different levels of biodiversity present in the world or present in India? How biodiversity loss has become a global concern, and what are the steps to be taken to save or protect the biodiversity? All right, so let's begin. So, biodiversity, basically the term was popularized by sociobiologist Edward Wilson to describe the combined diversity at all levels of biological organization, right from macromolecules within the cells, genes, species, ecosystems, and also, of course, biomes. All right. Now, there are three most important hierarchical levels of biodiversity. So biodiversity can be studied under three distinct levels, and they are genetic diversity that remains within an organism or within the species that resides in our genes. So genetic diversity. Then coming to species diversity, the diversity that remains in the species level. Okay, how many different species are there surviving within your own locality or within your given area. Likewise, ecological diversity. Now, in a particular region or say a landscape, there are various different types of ecosystems present, right? Like in India itself, if you think about being a country, it has different types of, landscapes or different types of ecosystem present. Parts of India would be tropical rainforest, a part of it will be desert. Likewise, there are so many diversity of seen in the ecosystems present within our country itself. So those level of diversity can be seen or can be studied under ecological diversity pattern. Alright, so let's start with genetic diversity. Genetic diversity is a measure of variety in genetic information contained in the organism. Within a species, genetic diversity occurs in the differences of alleles. Now, what are alleles? You will get to know when we discuss the chapter of genetics. Entire gene and chromosome structure. So this is what we are talking here about, the various genes or the genotype or the genetic makeup of an individual. Okay, we all human beings, suppose, are the same species, right? But even after being the same species, are we completely similar to one another? No. We have lots of differences, right? And that's what gives us our individuality. So these differences within us, being the same species also, we are so different from each other. That's because of genetic variability. Our genetic makeup is not similar. Of course, the exception will be identical twins, but other than that, we are all different by our genetic makeup, and that's what will give us different characteristics. All right, so that's what we're talking about here. It allows a population to adapt to its environment and changes occurring in it. For example, it results in variation in the concentration of active chemical rhizophine being present in the rhodosphere. Suppose there is a particular plant which bears or which secretes a toxic chemical. Now, if you check or if you do a survey of all the different plants of the species of a particular given area and the chemical or the toxin present within it, do you think each and every of the plant will bear equal concentration of the toxin? Or will it be bearing equal concentration of that chemical? No, right? Some of the plants will be, having more of concentration of it. Some of them will show different of variations. This is going to be because of genetic variability, because genetic makeup wise the plants aren't the same even if they belong to the same species. Alright. Now, more than 50,000 genetically different strains of rice and 1,000 varieties of mango occurs in India. So in India itself, if we talk about two, a very popular species, that is rice and mango. For rice and mango itself, within our own country, we have so many varieties present, like 50,000 genetically different strains of rice and 1,000 varieties of mango. Alright. Now, species diversity. It refers to the variety of species within a region. Now, within a particular region, the different types of species being present, that will be referred as species diversity. For example, Western Ghats have greater amphibian species as compared to Eastern Ghats. Okay? Likewise, there are few important factors associated with species diversity. Like, first, species diversity is a product of two things: species richness and species evenness. Okay? Now, what is species richness and what is species evenness? See, species richness is the number of species present within a unit area. How many different types of species are present in a given area? That number of species will be referred as species richness. But species evenness means the proportionate number of species present in a given area. Say in your locality, the number of, or the species of the dog as a species is found to be in much larger quantity in comparison to cats. Okay, so in that case, this kind of a ratio, if dogs and cats being two different species present in the same location, they are having a lot of disproportionate amount in your own area, given area. Dogs, suppose in your area, are 100 and cats are only 10. So in that case, it will not show species evenness, rather it will show species unevenness. And species unevenness won't be great or won't be good for the stability of the ecosystem. Alright, so that's what are the two factors: species richness, it is the number of species, and species evenness is the proportionate number of species present in a given area. So see this, species evenness is the proportionate number of individuals of different species. In case if one species is present in a locality in more quantity than the other, in that case that species will dominate over the other species, and then species evenness won't be present. Alright. Next, maximum diversity occurs where species of taxonomically diverse groups occur in equal abundance. In a particular area or a region, if all the different species present are also proportionately available, all of them are more or less found in equal abundance, only then the ecosystem will be found to be stable. Alright, fine. So this is about the species diversity. Next, moving on to ecological diversity. Now, ecological diversity means the different types of ecosystem that will be present in a given region. Okay? Like, it is the variety of ecosystems which indicate diversity in the number of niche, then trophic level, food wave, energy flow, etc. All of that taken together will constitute the ecological diversity. So in that case, in the first part of the chapter, what you basically need to remember is that biodiversity is very important for stability of the ecosystem, for our survival and for our well-being. And biodiversity can be seen in three distinct levels. First is genetic diversity, where we see that even within the same species, individuals are not alike. They show a different level of they show a lot of variety. Right? Next level is species diversity, where we get to know or learn that how different species are present in a given area. How the two different species are interrelated, or how they are interdependent on each other. Okay? And the third is ecological diversity, which is in much larger scale. We get to know that in a particular given region or a large, say, landscape, how many different ecosystems may be present from different niche or energy flow, different other point of views, how ecosystems would be showing variety or variation among each other. So this is mainly what you need to remember here. Now for a very, very important fact. See, types of ecological diversity. First, alpha diversity. It is the species diversity at local scale. So in a very big landscape, if we take into account, we can divide the landscape into various small ecosystems, right, or various small local areas, right. So biodiversity that can be seen in a local level, in the smallest scale, we call it alpha diversity. Likewise, gamma diversity. Gamma diversity means total species diversity in a whole landscape. In the regional level, the total species diversity would be referred as gamma diversity. Then what is beta diversity? See, it is the ratio between regional and local diversity. That means if you divide gamma divided by alpha, that will give you beta diversity. It's basically the ratio between regional and local diversity. Is that clear? This might not be given in NCERT, but it is very, very important for you to know. So I hope all of you are clear about it. Now, next, let us move on to the next topic. So now, let us discuss a very, very important part of this chapter, that is, how many species are there on Earth and how many in India? This is a very, very important question that has been asked many a times in the exam. Okay? So, see this. According to IUCN, that is International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resource, 2004, the total number of plants and animal species described so far is slightly more than 1.5 million, but we have no clear idea of how many species are yet to be discovered. So far, after so many years, we finally have successfully recorded around 1.5 million species of plants and animals on Earth, but then we don't know exactly how many are left to be described or even discovered. Estimates vary widely and most of them are educated guesses. For many, inventories are more complete in the temperate than in the tropical countries, because temperate regions have less of species diversity. That's why their estimates are much more towards complete rather than in comparison to the tropical countries, which have huge biodiversity. Alright? Now, comparing the species richness in tropics and temperate regions, scientists have calculated that the total number of species in the world ranges from 20 to 50 millions. So somehow, by some educated guesses, the scientists have finally come to a conclusion that maybe around 20 to 50 million of species are present, total number of species are present in the earth. Okay, so out of 20 to 50 million, only 1.5 million have been discovered. This is so very much surprising, isn't it? But then, according to Robert May, with his conservative and scientifically sound estimate, he places the global species diversity of around 7 millions. Okay, according to him, that no, not 20 to 50 million of species might be present on Earth, rather it should be around 7 million. Okay, so according to Robert May, 7 million species are there on Earth, and out of that 1.5 million we have discovered, but then almost around 80% of the species are yet to be discovered and described, right? Now that is a very huge way to go, right? So now let's move on to some interesting facts regarding Earth's biodiversity. See, some interesting aspects about Earth's biodiversity based on currently available species inventories are: number one, number of animal species is more than 70%, plant accounts for only 22% of the total. Now, why do you think animal species are around 70% but plants are only around nearly 22%? Why such a huge difference? There are many reasons why. First of all, animals, they possess a nervous system. So in that case, they can well adjust, or when they are given a particular stimulus, they respond to it according to or accordingly, so that their survival can be enhanced. Their amount of survival or their existence can be enhanced. Okay. So presence of nervous system is the first and foremost reason why the animals are much more biodiverse than the plants. Another reason you can say is that animals, they are motile, right? They can move around. So that's why they can easily combat, or they can easily avoid some competition. If they can avoid competition, obviously their survival will be much more guaranteed. In that case, the speciation will also prolong, right? And finally, animals are subjected to less seasonal and more constant environment. So these are the three reasons. First, they have nervous system. Accordingly, they can adapt well according to whatever stimulus they receive, and they would be also responding in a competitive manner or in a much more adaptive manner. Number two, they are motile, so they can easily avoid competition. Number three is that the animals, they are going to be subjected to less of seasonal but more of constant environment that will allow them to survive and to thrive or develop in their environment or in their given area. All right, next. Among animals, insects are most species rich, making more than 70% of the total. Now, among the whole of the species diversity, you have seen that animals are around 70%, plants only 22%. Again, among the animals, if we see, insects will make the most species rich because insects are going to be 70%. Rest of all animals will be only constituting 30% of the total. Now, why should that be? Why are insects such species diverse? The only reason behind the insects being so successful as a species is that they possess exoskeleton. They have a thick and protective chitinous exoskeleton that will be much more protective in nature. It will allow them to have a protection. Not only that, that will also prevent water loss from their bodies. This may be the reason why species or insect as a species is such successful in comparison to the other animal species. Understood? Next. Number of fungi species is 72,000 in the world, which is more than combined total of the species of fishes, that is 28,000, amphibians 4,780, reptiles 7,150, and mammals only 4,650. So fungi is having much more species diversity in comparison to combined total of fish, amphibian, reptiles and mammals. Finally, there are no estimates for prokaryotes. Now, prokaryotes, the microorganisms, we have not been mentioning at all so far, isn't it? That's because the prokaryotes, for them, we do not have taxonomic methods which are suitable for their identification or for their characterization. Also, many species of microbes are simply not culturable. Alright? For prokaryotes, the species diversity among the prokaryotes has to be something, in millions. Maybe if we could have properly identified and characterized the prokaryotes, their species diversity should have been much higher, right? But then because we cannot culture them, or we do not know how to identify them, or we do not have technically such advanced way of learning about them or studying them, we do not have any kind of estimate, proper estimate regarding the microbial or prokaryotic diversity. Understood? Fine? Now, for a very, very important part, biodiversity in India. See, biodiversity in India is also very, very important for your board exam. It has been asked so many a times. So in that case, do remember these facts and figures very, very well. Okay? See, India is divided into 10 biogeographical regions with only 2.4% of world's land area and 8.1% of species diversity of the world. So, India has only 2.4% of world's land area, but it has the total 8.1% of species diversity of the world. Okay, out of total biodiversity of the world, India has 8.1% of total biodiversity. Alright. Now, India is one of the 12 mega diversity countries of the world, ranking 8th in the list. Now, there is a list of 12 mega diversity countries. where the countries have been ranked according to their biodiversity, where the maximum biodiversity has been observed in Brazil, and India, it ranks in the 8th position. Okay. Now, it has around 45,000 plant species and twice as many animal species that has been discovered or described in India. But taking Robert May's estimates was that in the world 7 million species are present. So if we consider Robert May's estimates under consideration, only 22% species have been recorded so far in the whole world. And accordingly, applying this to India's statistics, probably 1 lakh plant species and 3 lakh animal species are yet to be discovered in India. So in India, 45,000 plants have been already discovered and around 1 lakh animals have been discovered, right? But then, according to Robert May's estimates, maybe around 1 lakh plant species and 3 lakh animal species are yet to be discovered in India itself. Alright. Lastly, even if we have a long way to go regarding discovery, we have not discovered even half the number of species present in the world today, and we would require a very large manpower and expertise in this particular taxonomic field to achieve such a huge number of discoveries. But then there is a problem here, that is, even before certain species are getting discovered, they are already facing the risk of extinction. Okay, even before we come to know about a species, we already might have lost it due to certain kind of man-made activities. Okay, so we can put it in words appropriately by this statement, that is, nature's biological library is burning even before we catalogue the titles of all the books stocked there. As if we have brought so many books to put it in a library, but before we can properly catalogue and stock them, already the nature's library has started to burn. So before we can discover all the species, maybe many of them would become extinct due to certain kind of man-made activities. What are they? That we'll be learning in the end of this chapter. But then, this much for today's class. I hope all of you are clear about it. This chapter is all about remembering the facts and figures related to biodiversity, be it in the world, be it in India. I hope all of you would remember these facts or these figures properly. So with that, I'll end the class here itself. In the next class, we'll start with patterns of biodiversity. Thank you.